All right, let's talk about something that can be, well, downright terrifying. That sudden, crazy feeling of your heart just pounding in your chest. We're going to get into its connection with anxiety and really just demystify what in the world is going on inside your body. I mean, if you're tuning in, this probably looks familiar, right? It can pop up out of nowhere, feel so intense, and it just leaves you thinking, is something seriously wrong with me? The very first thing you need to know is you are definitely not alone, and what you're feeling is a very real physical thing. So let's start right there. Let's look at this feeling for what it is. It's a symptom. You can think of it as your body sending you a signal, a really loud, impossible to ignore signal. But a signal of what exactly? And here it is. This is the key. This feeling is not just in your head. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, they officially recognize these intense heart palpitations as a major symptom of panic disorder. That means the experts see a direct, undeniable link between that physical pounding and your mental state. Okay, so we've nailed down the what. It's a real symptom tied to anxiety. But what about the why? I mean, what is actually happening that makes your heart feel like it's trying to escape your chest? Well, it all comes down to your body's built-in alarm system. So let me introduce you to the command center, the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS. The easiest way to think about it is like your body's autopilot. You don't tell your heart to beat, right? Or your lungs to breathe. The ANS just handles all of that stuff in the background. And when you feel that wave of anxiety, this is the system that gets a serious jolt. See, your ANS basically has two modes. You can think of it like a gas pedal and a brake. When your brain senses any kind of threats, and it doesn't matter if it's a real threat or just an anxious thought, it slams on the gas. That's your sympathetic system, the fight or flight response. It floods you with adrenaline, and boom, your heart rate and blood pressure skyrocket. That feeling? That's the palpitation. The other mode, the parasympathetic system, that's the brake. It's the rest and digest system that calms everything back down. Now, with anxiety, it can feel like that gas pedal is just stuck to the floor. Okay, let's get to the big one, the question that probably fuels so much of the panic in the first place. Is this just my anxiety, or could it be a serious heart condition like atrial fibrillation? You know, A-fib. This is so important, so let's get into it. Okay, let's look at some of the key differences here. With anxiety, it often builds up, it's more gradual, kind of grows as your anxious thoughts do. Your heart is racing for sure, but it usually keeps a steady rhythm. With A-fib, it can be a really sharp, intense start. And here's the biggest difference, the rhythm. With anxiety, it's fast but regular. A-fib often feels like a flutter, a quiver. It's an irregular beat. But look, and this is crucial, only a doctor can actually make a diagnosis. Which, you guessed it, brings us to our next point. So if you're dealing with this, how do you get a real definitive answer? The great news is that doctors have a really clear step-by-step way to figure this out. There is a path to getting some certainty. The whole journey usually kicks off with something simple, like a screening questionnaire, just to get a handle on your symptoms and what might be triggering them. From there, if it's needed, you'll move on to heart monitoring to get actual data. Only after they have that information will a doctor make a diagnosis. It's a logical process, step by step. And the tools they use aren't as scary as they sound. A Holter monitor is basically just a portable ECG that you wear for a day or two, and it records every single heartbeat. An event monitor is kind of similar, but you press a button to start recording when you feel the symptoms. Both of these just give your doctor a clear picture of what your heart's up to. And this might be the most important thing to hear about the whole process. A doctor will only say that palpitations are from anxiety after they have ruled out all the other possibilities. It's what's called a diagnosis of elimination. They make sure your heart is physically healthy first. So, you've been to the doctor, they've given you the all clear, and they've confirmed that anxiety is the culprit. What happens now? Well, this is where the story shifts. This is where we get proactive. Let's talk about the solutions. The great thing is, you've got a whole toolkit to work with. Things like psychotherapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, that's super effective for changing those anxious thought patterns. For some people, medications like SSRIs can be a huge help. And then there's all the stuff you can do yourself. Yoga, exercise, meditation, all these things are amazing for calming your whole nervous system down. And really, that brings us to the ultimate goal here, which is empowerment. It's all about learning to see your anxiety not as this thing that's hijacking your body, but as something you can manage. Self-management means understanding what your triggers are and then developing a real sense of control. It's about you getting back in the driver's seat. As we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this number, 19.1%. That's the percentage of adults right here in the US that are affected by anxiety disorders. Just let that sink in for a second. If you are going through this, you are part of a huge community. Anxiety is the single most common mental health challenge in the entire country. So that feeling that makes you feel so isolated, it's actually something that connects you to millions and millions of other people. You are so not alone in this. So the takeaway here isn't just about understanding the problem, right? It's about taking one small, proactive step. So I'll just leave you with this question. What's one small relaxation technique? Maybe it's deep breathing, a 5-minute walk, whatever. What's one thing you could try this week? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.